Don't forget to mute everybody.
Hello and welcome, everybody. We are so happy to welcome you back to class 4 of this four-part series, An Introduction to Kabbalah, taught by our wonderful lecturer and teacher, Dr. Biti Roy. We are so happy to welcome you post-Purim. You've been talking about secrets for the last 3 weeks, and I'm sure your Purim was the most revealing of all of the secrets. We are here with class 4, and without any further ado, it's my honor and kavod to hand over to Dr. Roy.
Hi, Rabbi Mark. Hi, everyone. I feel like I know you a little bit, so it's great to see you. Today we are in our last meeting in our survey about Kabbalah. We are tasting, little bites, really very, very little bites from a huge kind of ocean of the Kabbalah streams, people, ideas. We're going over millenniums geographically. We're doing a lot of things in these 4 meetings. Last time we spoke about the Zohar. Actually, the meeting was dedicated mostly to the Zohar, telling how the Zohar actually took the Kabbalah out of what was concealed and hidden, and that the Zohar actually is saying we need to speak about the secrets. We spoke about actually 2 emphases of the Zohar, of the Kabbalah as a whole. And one is dealing with evil, looking at the evil eyes, seeing the monsters of the evil, talking about the evil, not like the philosophy that put the evil and actually say that there's no evil in the world. It's just stupidity, silliness, or no good in the world. Kabbalah spoke a lot about the evil in the world and knowing the world through the evil topic, not neglecting this side of the world. This was one innovation of the Kabbalah. The other one that we spoke a lot about was the feminine aspect of the Kabbalah, which actually at the first time brings the feminine and the femininity to centrality of the Jewish thought, speaking about first about the Shekhinah, which is a divine feminine. Very interesting to say, and in Hebrew it's very strong to say that the divine is feminine, because the Hebrew grammar is speaking about the divine as a masculine. So this is a kind of a renewal of the ancient idea of the Shekhinah, but now giving it the feminine aspect of it, speaking about feminine aspects of God that has to do with the femininity, with giving birth, with recreating, with nursing, with being part of a couple. And speaking about the divine feminine leads us to the idea of the zivug, what we call unification, that actually in the center of the Kabbalah and the mission of the Kabbalist is actually to unify, or we should say reunify, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. This is a striking idea, to speak about the divine like this. This is not a close narcissist entities. I'm adding all kinds of psychoanalysis concept because I know people here are into this theory and way of life. Anyhow, to say that the divine is a unification of masculine and a feminine is a striking idea. To say that the divine is not a whole narcissist, a closed inside itself, an abstract concept, but rather personal, a divine that has a relationship and is working in this kind of unification, that actually sexuality and giving birth is actually one of the most prominent aspect of this divine. This is a kind of an idea that we need to think about, because we are very well known with the Western idea and the philosophical idea about the oneness as an abstract concept of the divine. Now we're speaking about a personal, a dynamic, and a divine that has to do with a unification between the male and the female that begins now to be the essence of the world. The infrastructure of the world has to do with the unification or with the separation of the divine masculine from the feminine. And this explains all, actually. It's explained the inner understanding of history, of our sadness, of a personal tragedy. Everything is about the ability to reunite parts of opposites inside. And this is actually what explains everything in the inner side of it. I mean, we can see all kinds of political movements and personal movements whatsoever. For the Kabbalists, this is the inner story. It's like you see a pantomime. Do you say pantomime? Pantomima? And you ask yourself, what is it about? So the Kabbalist will tell you, listen, the destruction of the temple, the exile, the Hamas, whatever, is this kind of separation of love that was destroyed, that was interrupted. And this is actually what the Kabbalist is holding in his mind, whatever he's doing, to reunite, to reunify the two absence, the lack of love. Okay, this is what we actually saw. I just want to, before we move from the Zohar, I just want to show you something that we didn't have time to study, but while I'm talking about it, I really want to, Rabbi Mark, do we see what I have on my screen?
Yeah, it's good.
So this is part of the Zohar. I want to show you. I guess you know this kind of sculpture from the Israel Museum. Ahava. That actually the Zohar is telling us, we don't have time to read it, that the word Ahava in somehow is the word Yud Hey Vav Hey, which is the name of God. It sounds the same in Hebrew. The letters are the same, some are changed, but basically it is all what it is about. What we spoke last time is that to say that the Kabbalist actually gave us a key how to read the Torah. In the Middle Ages, when philosophy or astrology, I'm speaking about Maimonides and Ibn Ezra, gave their own key for reading the Torah, the Kabbalists are saying we have another key, a third key. Our key is the divine world. Every verse in the Torah, every phenomena that we see around us is a double statement, is a double scenery, is a double explanation of something which lays beneath it the unification of the feminine and the masculine. So we actually saw it on two verses that I wanted to show you how the Zohar does this. And one was a river flows from Eden, watering the garden, from then splitting into 4 little rivers. And we spoke about this as the snat on the simplistic way, a scenery of Gan Eden, of the paradise, but actually the divine watering its world and separating into this kind of world, our world, that is full with separations and pluralic understanding of what's going on. This was one verse, and the other one was the verse that the Kabbalists took as a motto to their own writing, which speaks about the maskilim, the enlightened, which are they themselves, describing themselves like a stars in the sky, lighting like the stars in the star, like the star in the sky, and like letters on the Torah scroll, which they see the sky is a kind of a scroll that has, with the stars on it, the lights of the letters that they're so love and excited to play with in a joyful and creative way. So actually, this verse actually encapsulates their own identity, how they see themselves as enlightened, knowledgeable, but playful as well, a human being that worship the divine. So we had the explanations of two ways the Zohar reads a very simple verse, trying to feel how do they do their own work and work life. So this was last time we spoke about Esther. It was before Purim. 1 minute I will give you to say a comment. We spoke about Esther, which is the same time the Shekhinah, which is the divine feminine, and the way the Kabbalists see her as a Shoshana, as a rose, that is open. It's also an erotic picture, but also aesthetic and poetic way to see the divine feminine. I told you that this is the opening of the Zohar, like the first page of the printed Zohar is speaking about this rose, this beautiful rose that is also, it's I have to say she, but it's the rose is red and white, and she's moving from judgment to mercy, which symbolize with the red and the white, and she's so pretty, and everyone wants to look at her. And actually, when the Kabbalist is doing a Kiddush on Leil Shabbat, he's uplifting the cup of wine that they see as the rose. They actually doing a performance of remedy to themselves. Kos Yeshuot Esa, they are bringing up the cup of wine, at the same time symbolizing their ability to uplift the Shekhinah, which is the Shoshana, which is the rose, which is themselves. So these were actually the two things that we spoke about, innovations of the Zohar, the evil and the feminine aspect, and we try to see how the Zohar deals with the verse. What's the key that the Zohar, hermeneutic key that the Zohar offers us to read the canonical text in the world around us. Now I want to move to another stage, which will be Safed in the 16th century. But before that, we're going to listen to a few comments if you want to say. Gloria, I see you raising your hand. Yes, please.
Not that I need any encouragement to be playful, but I'm glad that you said that in studying the Kabbalists were playful, because I was thinking when you're talking about merging the masculine and the feminine, I think they would have a lot to say about gender fluidity and non-binary. It's just is interesting to me. So
Yes.
I just wanted to throw a red herring at you.
Yeah. It's not something that is on the side. Of course, when you speak about fluidity, it's here, and their ability actually. And I'm speaking now about their own identity, the ability of the Kabbalist, not just to speak about the feminine aspect of the divine, but actually to identify with the feminine side inside them is part of this. They are willing to be a feminine to the divine masculine. They're able to move their gender, whatever you call it, identity. So sometimes they are masculine that they will give, and sometimes they are feminine that they are open to give the divine flow to dwell with them. And yes, of course, we can speak a lot about it. I must tell you that in Israel, it's a big thing now, of course, in Tel Aviv, and I gave a few lectures on that. People came to hear about the ancient Kabbalah from the Middle Ages speaking about theories that you'll be, how do you say, read to hear it today. So thank you for this. There's a lot to speak about it. I'm moving, Nachon, Rabbi Mark, there's no other, so I'm moving to Tzfat in the 16th century. Wow, this is a big thing. I'm very into it at the last years to speak about Tzfat in the 16th century. And we speak about a very interesting center, a Kabbalistic center in Israel, back in Israel. You remember we started with a Mishnah, and Dorshim, you are not allowed to speak out loud secrets. We moved, to the Babylonian. Let's see it on the map. I want to show it to you. Yes, we started here in the Mishnah. Most of it in the Galilee, in the north of the country of Israel. We moved to the area of Babylon with the Talmud that we spoke, how the Talmud reads the Mishnah. We moved to the south of France. We spoke about it, the Provence. We are moving, we are flying with the Jews over a millennium and more. We spoke about the Kabbalah going down south from Provence in France into Spain. We spoke about Gerona, where Nachmanides was. We spoke about Nachmanides last time. And we spoke about the Zohar, which is southern to Gerona, in a center that calls Castilla. Okay, we are here. We're now in the Middle Ages, but in 1492, the Jews were expelled from Spain, and they had to leave. First, they were forced to change their religion to Christianity, but after that, Isabel and Ferdinando, they spoke about that it's not enough, and we want to get rid of the Jews. So we're speaking about Spain. The Jews are moving from Spain to Portugal, and also after a few years, they had to leave. And then we have different centers of Jews after the expulsion from Spain, which will be Italy. Some will go to what we call Ashkenaz Europe, and many of them will go to the Ottoman Empire at that day, the 16th century, and some of them will come to a very small town in Israel by the name Tzfat. Tzfat was a very little city. We speak about a kind of a kilometer on a kilometer and a half. We speak about a city that flourished less than 40 years. It starts in the 1630s, in the 30s of the 16th century, and it ended after the death of the Ari, tragically in a plague, which very often happened in the Empire Ottoman. Some historians say that every 2 years, people were dying from plagues. So Luria, for example, died in a plague after less than 2 years that he came to Tzfat. So this is the Tzfat area that we are going to speak about today. Brings a riddle, enigma. How can such a small city, kilometer on a kilometer and a half, that lived for so short time, less than 40 years, that was a city in the marginal of the Ottoman Empire? What happened that Dafka on Tzfat, that Tzfat influenced so much the Jewish history, that the theories, the Kabbalist ideas, the poems, the halakha, the Jewish law, and so on, Tzfat became such an important city. I want to show you, maybe I'll have it here. I want to show you an ancient picture of the 4 holy cities. The 4 holy cities. You can see it here. You can follow me and see that Yerushalayim is even smaller. This is Yerushalayim, Tibaneh v'tikonen, which it says in Hebrew, will be built and rebuilt. This is Tiberias, okay? This is Hebron, where our ancestors are buried, and up above everyone is Tzfat. No, 1 minute. Where are you? It's Tzfat. It says, Ir HaKodesh Tzfat, the holy city Tzfat, Tibaneh v'tikunen, and you can see the understanding of Tzfat as a very important center above all the other, what we call the 4 holy cities. So what happened actually that Tzfat became such an important place? 1 minute, I need to go back. Here we are. This is what we are going to say to deal today. So this is Tzfat. I want to speak about the Ari, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, which his initials in Hebrew is Ha'ari, which is the lion, and can be open. I mean, the letters can be open as Ha'ashkenazi, Rabbi Yitzchak, Ha'elohi, the divine, Rabbi Yitzchak, or Ha'adon, our master, Rabbi Yitzchak. Some reads it like this, some reads it like this. Anyhow, in Hebrew, it's Ha'ari, and his students, they are called the little cubs of the lion, Gurei Ha'ari, which you emphasize actually the way this human being became so admired by Jews. I want to read with you also here the matzeva on his grave that says in Hebrew, Tov lekabel alav le'ehov kol adam Yisrael. It's good that everyone will get himself into love every other human being from Israel. Before praying, he has to say in a perfect, loving emotion, feeling, Hareini mekabel alai mitzvat aseh. I'm taking upon myself the obligation to love, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, to love everyone. והריני אוהב את כל אחד מבני ישראל. I love every one of my sisters and brothers. And if some of you knows it, of course, and it got into the prayer book sometimes before the morning service, something that the Ari, Luria, the Ari in Hebrew, told his students, when you come to daven, when you come to pray, you have before that to get upon yourself the obligation of feeling love to everyone around you, which is a kind of a condition to the prayer. Because the divine is not the opposite of a human being. And your obligation to the divine is before there is a condition of loving of your others. You cannot actually, there's a story about one of the rabbis in Israel that the service the morning and the service started at 7 o'clock, and his students always saw him sitting in his car, 7 o'clock, coming to daven 7:03. So they, of course, waited to him, but they asked him, what's going on? Why you're not showing to the 7 o'clock morning service. And he said, because I need to listen to the news. I need to know what's going on in the world. You cannot start talking to the divine, to God, before you have the communal outside situation. So Hareini Mekabel Alai Mitzvat Aseh started to be printed in the Sidurim, in the prayer book. We saw this map about the emerging of the center of Tzfat. This one I want to move further, but before that I want to tell you, to discuss the idea that actually Tzfat became such a center of influential center of the Jews. This poem, Lecha Dodi, I think with no doubt, it is the most common poem the Jews are singing till today. I'm speaking around the globe. I'm speaking, south, north, west, whatever. Friday night. This became, I think, statistically, the most well-known poem ever. It's becoming such a big thing. In Tzfat, Shabbat, the service of Kabbalah Shabbat, that was before the 16th century, very short citations of Psalms, saying Arvit, the common prayer at night with a little of changes, but the Tfilat, what we call Kabbalah Shabbat, is due to the Tzfat Kabbalist. They actually implanted into the Jewish tradition all kinds of rituals that became part of what we do today, like Tikkun Chatzot, sitting at the 12 o'clock Chatzot night and crying for the exile and the destruction of the temple. I don't know if you saw somebody sometimes doing it, sitting on the floor next to the door, saying some songs. Some are putting a little bit of efer on their head. This kind of ritual is from the 16th century. Lecha Dodi, come out my beloved, it's the 16th century. Tikkun Leil Shavuot, the fact that if you come in Israel on Shavuot, you'll find all over Israel, every community is studying Torah during the night of Shavuot, the Chag Matan Torah, getting the Torah, is a 16th century ritual. It became well known. Tikkun Tu B'Shvat, if you know about Tu B'Shvat, eating all kinds of fruits and saying things about them. So the Kabbalists brought all kinds of ritual to the Jewish tradition that weren't known before. It's another understanding of the big influence that the Kabbalists in Tzfat brought to the Jewish people. Now I want to go with you. So this is Lecha Dodi. I want to speak about Caro. Where is Yedid Nefesh? That I guess you also know of Rabbi Elazar Azikri, that wrote a very beautiful book, Sefer Charedim. Chared is somebody who was fearing. I guess he meant fear from God. And he writes this poem, Yedid Nefesh, that many people sings before Shabbat prayer and also Shabbat afternoon, and speaks about cleaving to the divine. Again, the initials of this poem is, again, the name of God, Yud, the first letter Yud, The second one, Hey. Vatik is Vav. And Higale is Hey. He brings it inside this book that speaks about the rituals. And he says, I'm organizing the entire rituals of the Jews through, it's a very interesting catalog of organizing the rituals. I'm organizing the rituals of the Jewish law according to limbs of the body. So there are things that we're doing with our hand, giving tzedakah. There are things that we are doing in our eyes. There are things that we are doing in our mouth, blessing, praying. There are all kinds of rituals that we are doing. It's an amazing way to catalog it, because some will catalog it through the verses of the Torah, like Sefer HaChinuch, if you know. Some will catalog it through ideas, fundamental ideas, like Maimonides. He is choosing a different catalog, which is about the body. Again, emphasizing the centrality of the body in the Jewish tradition. So in the heart rituals, mitzvot halev, he says that part of loving God in your heart is to be able to sing songs of love. And on the spot, he brings this poem that he composed of Beloved of the Soul. We can see actually how this song is full with cleaving, yearning to God, full of verses, parts of verses from the Bible. And my soul is sick with love for you, and looking for being with God, cleaving to God inside it. So we spoke about two very well-known poems that were composed in Sfat. We spoke about all kinds of rituals that were conducted on Sfat. And I want to move to the Kabbalists of Sfat. Now, what we are going to do is a little bit difficult, but I think you can try to handle it, is to understand a little bit what was the innovations Kabbalah of Luria, what actually he brought new to the Jewish tradition after the Zohar. So we will say that actually the Ari, Luria, is based a lot about the Zohar. And I want to explain a little bit what actually he is bringing to us. Here we are with a kind of the shablona of the Zohar. The Zohar is bringing us, the Kabbalist, the 10 aspects of God that starts from Keter, will, we call it will, or the crown, or nothingness, going to the wisdom, to understanding, to love and grace, to din and judgment, moving to beauty, tiferet, to netzach, eternity, hod, splendor, yesod, foundation, and the Shekhinah that we spoke a lot about. In a way, this is the map. This is the way the Kabbalists see the divine world, that each time one aspect is in the center or is in a relation with other aspect. We spoke about a lot about the unification of Tiferet, beauty, with the Shekhinah, with what we say L'Shem Yichud, for the unification of the masculine and the feminine. But there is also more things, feminine aspect in this kind of a diagram, which is here, understanding, Bina, also known as the palace or the womb. She is a matriarch, I would say, aspect of the divine. If the Shekhinah is the couple, the Bat Zug, Bina is the mother. And the Kabbalists do not want to prevent themselves of the opportunity to live through the eyes of the mother, to give up about the character of being a mother, of giving birth, of being responsible for all the kids here, of being part of a couple of the Chokhmah. All kinds of things are interested in the Bina. So this is like the Shablonic traditional divine scheme, I would say, with a playful that we spoke about. I mean, if you have a diagram, you can play with it. If you don't have anything, it's not interesting. You know, Michael Jackson is coming to play basketball. There are rules, but inside the rules, he's bringing the ball on his fingers, playing it with it. So this is the idea. We have a kind of a scheme, but we're going to play with it. We wanted to speak about the river flows from Eden. So now we look at this and we say, you know what? The spring of Eden is here. And this is the flow of the river. And it waters till here, the garden. And from here, it's the world. So they see it and they play with it. So what's the innovation of the Luria? Luria is accepting this idea of the divine world, the dynamic of the divine world. And of course, he is accepting the understanding, the deep idea of Leshem Yichud, for the unification between the masculine and the feminine. By the way, also between grace and judgment, which according to the Talmudic sages, the world cannot sustain itself without balance between love and judgment. If you love too much, the world will destroy. That's how they explains, for example, Arayot. How do you say Arayot, Mark? Mark.
Prohibited sexual relations.
Right. Incest. Now I remember incest. Yes? So it's too much of grace and giving. And of course, if it will be too much judgment, the world will be destroyed without love. So we need the balance between them. The Kabbalists are standing for prayer. They stand with their hands like this. The right hand is holding the left hand, like subordinating judgment into the love, which symbolize in the right hand, versus the left hand that symbolize judgment. So they need also the balance, not just between feminine and masculine, but also between love and judgment, and so on and so on. This is a very interesting and profound way of thinking about the world, the divine, and the human being. So what does the Ari is doing? The Ari is adding, actually, reducing, but adding things to this kind of scheme. First of all, it's bringing us the idea, striking, of the divine as a father and a mother, which actually the Zohar already see wisdom as the father and Bina, understanding, as the mother. But he wants to call them Abba and Ima. In English, it will be daddy and mommy, which is striking to think about it. That to say that your inner internalizing figures that guide you in life is your mother and father. This is before Freud. Is striking to say actually that the God, the divine, is the other, is the father, is the mother that goes with you. And of course, they base their idea about a very interesting midrash that speaks about Joseph, when he has this temptation with Potiphar's wife, the Midrash asks, how did he stop? It was inside, she seduced him.
She seduced him.
Seduced him. Thank you. She seduced him with a seduction. And she was alone, and he was alone, and he was a very pretty man. And she probably was also. And her husband wasn't at home. And she took his she seduced him. So how come he stopped being with her, sleeping with her? And the Midrash is saying a very interesting and deep idea. And it says that he saw the figure of his father Jacob. He saw the image of his father Jacob. And one Midrash I saw just lately, and I was also shocked to see that he saw also the image of his mother. And this is what made him stop the whole process. So the Midrash is actually telling us that the most important figures in our life that guides us, stops us from doing things, or preventing us from doing things, or pushing us or empowering us to do things, are the mother and the father. So the Ari is saying, let's call this aspect of the divine also father and mother, the wisdom and understanding. Let's see it in a beautiful new book and an internet website by the name Ilanot of Haifa University that brings all kinds of printing and drawing, Kabbalistic drawing that I recommend you to take a look at. And here we see this kind of a very ancient manuscript describing here, and you can see here Patzuf Abba, which is the face of father, and Patzuf Ima, which is the face of the mother. What else the Ari is bringing? If we spoke about Abba and Ima, he wants to call this kind of aspect the Saba, the grandfather, the Atik, the ancient. He calls him the ancient. And he also calls him Ari Hanpin. Ari Hanpin, and Tiferet in a minute we'll dig into it a little bit. And Tiferet, which is the masculine aspect, he calls the Iranpin. So this is the ancient and this is the young. He wants to bring, to emphasize that this kind of scheme has to do not just with the masculine and the feminine, or with the father and the mother, or with the grace and the judgment, but also with the ancient, the old, and the young. There is a kind of a characteristic understanding of the divine, which according to the Midrash already, when he was on the sea, on the Egyptians running after the Jewish people, he looked as a young person. But when he gave the Torah, he looked to them as he was old. So there's all kinds of internalized figure of the divine that we don't want to miss when we speak about the divine, because the divine can be something very boring. If we say God, and it's empty, it's an abstract idea, but the Kabbalists are interested in digging into all kinds of aspects inside the divine. So there are differences between a 20 years old and an 80 years old, and they don't want to miss it when they speak also about the divine. Therefore, they speak about the old aspect of God and the young aspect of God, again, based on the Midrash, the sages speaking about the divine. What else they are bringing to the front, the Luria is bringing to the front, is the idea that the old one is much more patient than the young one. The young one is rush to punish. He's angry. The old one is more patient, is more relaxed, is less judgmental. You know, he's a grandfather. Of course, the kid can jump on, I don't know. It's not, I don't have to educate him. I'm the grandfather. I love him. I have no judgmental view of what he's doing. So too, Luria wants to emphasize the aspect of the old divine versus the aspect of the young, judgmental, harsh, young divine. Now, we will summarize what we saw. We saw actually that Luria is taking the Zoharic scheme, the Kabbalistic Zoharic scheme, that was developed through hundreds of years from Provence into Spain. The Jews that were expelled from Spain came to Tzfat. They came with the wisdom of the Zohar, with the Spanish heritage that no one can took from them. They were expelled, they were killed, they were burned, but they had the wisdom of the Kabbalah. And as we saw last time on the Shoshana with Esther, it what kept them alive, the hope, the understanding that the less and the weak one can be sometimes can uplift itself to a better place and a better times, like Kos Yeshua Tesa, like the rose that you doing a blessing on the wine, you are actually redeeming yourself. So they kept with this wisdom to Tzfat. They came with it. Now there were Jews in Tzfat, but they didn't know so much about this secret wisdom, and the Kabbalists brought it with them. So what Luria actually emphasized is what we call 5 faces. 5 faces. To speak about the divine as a face, it's also something very I don't want to say subversive, but it's something to say, you know, God has no body, but maybe he has a face. We are longing to the face of God. This is what we say in the Kohanim, Birkat Kohanim. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. We are cleaving to the face of God, as if the face of God is giving us existence. He's saying, yes, you are here. I see you. So the faces becomes the center of the Luriani Kabbalah. Paradoxically, as opposed to philosophy that said that God has no body, the Kabbalah said he has a face. This is what we want. We want the face of God. We want to be in relationship with God. Some are saying that the distance between a mother that nurses her kid is, I don't know, it's 40 centimeter, which is the best distance to see that the baby can see his mother's face. If it was too close, he can't see. If it was too far away, he can't see. This is the way they connect to each other. So the face, Lecha amar Hashem libi pakshu panai. I want your face, God. So this is actually what the Ari is telling us. And here we see the entire 5 partzufim, Ari Chanpin, Atik Yomin, Abba, which is Chokhmah, Binah, Ze'er Anpin, the little face, which is the angry one, and the Nukba, which is the feminine, the Shekhinah, the Malchut. There's a lot to talk about it, but I will stop here our trip in the Kabbalah because I see the time is we run out of time. So actually what I wanted to show you is the way that the Kabbalah started in the Middle Ages in Provence and in Spain, based on a secret tradition that was in the Jewish heritage since the Mishnaic and the Talmudic time, wasn't printed or wasn't allowed to be discussed out loud, flourished in the Middle Ages because of philosophy. I'm like summarizing our meeting. Because of the breaking through of philosophy that actually forced the Kabbalists to release their secrets. And then, wow, it's a whole, we did a lot of moving, timely speaking and geographically speaking. And since then, from the expulsion of Spain, moved into Tzfat, influenced tremendously the entire Jewish world in ritual, in halacha, in the Kabbalah, in understanding, in the prayer. And I think we can stop here our trip, which is about to give you mamash on the, we say in Hebrew, al ktsei halashon, on the edge of your tongue, the taste of the huge literature, ideas, understanding, which is, I hope, you got the idea that it is so profound, religiously, spiritually, psychologically. This is a very profound and I don't know what to say, profound wisdom of the Jewish tradition. So I will stop here. If there are any comments to ask and to say. Thank you, Gloria. Yes, Michael, please.
Thank you for this tremendous historical overview and journey. And I'm just wondering if we could jump to the modern day. It seems that the Kabbalah is highly popularized with Madonna and the Kabbalah centers and so forth. Is there any serious study and development of the Kabbalah that's still taking place? Or, yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, I'm sorry that in our 4 meetings, we didn't have time to go to the last phase of Hasidut, and also for the modern time, which, of course, Kabbalah is alive. You know, Kabbalah is alive. Kabbalah is alive in many ways. It alives in many centers. It alives in many affiliations of Jews and non-Jews. And yes, there's a lot to say, but this is a short 4 meetings. Actually, I love a lot to speak about Rav Kook, which was the first chief rabbi of Israel, which I see him as a Kabbalist. And, you know, we also speak about Kabbalah inside Hasidut, which Hasidut, as opposed of people thinking that Hasidut, Gershom Shalom, one of the scholars, ends his magnum opus about the Kabbalah at Hasidut, and he said, you know, in Auschwitz, the Hasidut is done. Like thousands of Jews were burned in Auschwitz. They were Hasidim, which is maybe the modern stage of Kabbalah. So maybe it's done. He's asking it. So no, Hasidut, as we say in Hebrew, chaya veboetet, is kicking and alive. And we see it in many, many ways. I mean, you know, you can see it outside in many phases of Kabbalah, inside the Hasidic world, inside the modern Orthodoxy, inside, you know, even all kinds of liberal affiliations. And as you mentioned, also in non-Jews, in a way, that Madonna took the letters love, Lamed Aleph Bet, and made it as a something that she's identified with. We just started our meeting today with the word love and its meaning. So there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say, but Kabbalah and Hasidut is still alive and still empowering people in their Jewish identity and life and the way they see the world around them. Yes, so to your question, it's not an ancient wisdom. I mean, it's an ancient wisdom that is still alive and still gives, people meaningful way of life in their religious and spiritual journey in life. So,
Dr.
Robert Mark,
Ray, can I
yes.
ask you a very personal question in public on Zoom that's being recorded?
I can close it if I don't want. I can put myself on mute. Okay. Yes. Yes, Rabbi Mark.
You spoke a lot about there's a lot of practices Kabbalists will have when they pray. They'll put the right hand inside of the left hand to kind of temper the din in the rachamim. And in your life, I don't know if I would describe you as a Kabbalist. Maybe you're the most Kabbalistic person I know. I'm not sure. But in your life, when you make Kiddush on Friday night and the cup of wine, you quoted the pasuk, Kos Yeshuat Esa. You said that a few times. What is going through your mind? What are you thinking? Does this change your life? Is there a impact this makes on you in the most practical of ways? I'm saying Kiddush as an example. It could be any mitzvah.
So, Rabbi Mark, we know for many, many years, and I love you and I appreciate you, and it's you always ask me a very good questions, and so this is a very good question. As academics, I can always say, I'm behind the books, I'm behind the idea, I'm behind the research, scholarship, whatever. But I don't believe that somebody is so immersed in the topic he's reading, working on, that he's not in a way into it. So I can tell you that I'm very into these ideas, and I, in many, many ways. I mean, some of them I related in these 4 short meetings, like the evil, like the femininity, like the playful way, like the personal relationship with the divine, like the understanding that it's a relationship, it's not an abstract idea. Understanding that the divine has to present in my life. It's not something that I open the books and see, but I want to give it a place in what I do, and in the way I look at the world.
Right.
I can tell you that now really we are in the midst. I'm in the midst of what we call in Hebrew taltala. I'm in a kind of crisis since October 7th. I mean, in my personal life, in my Israeli life, in my Jewish life, I really feel I'm in a crisis. I feel there's nothing like this that we are experiencing since the Holocaust, which I'm a 3rd generation. But in a way, I organize my life through these ideas. I see reality through these ideas. And of course, it gives me a lot of meaningful way to look at the Kabbalah. Since October 7th, I'm looking and I'm writing now a new book about the idea of crisis and the sadness and the hope. This is what I did for the last half a year looking how, for example, the Zohar or the Ari is looking at these topics, and what do they have to say about the crying divine, about the feminine that is imperfect, about hope, about how you, in one hand, like the Kabbalist in the Zohar saying, in one hand, I have like a tremendous sorrow. On the other hand, I have a lot of joy. So how do you deal with this? So I feel in this world a lot of a personal meaningful. So your question was personal. I respond to you personal, but you know, I eat those texts for breakfast, lunch, and so I'm into it. I feel that this is I'm, you know, one of the Hasidic, Rabbi Pinchas Mikoritz, one of the interesting master of Hasidut, says that the Zohar kept him in Yiddishkeit. The Zohar kept him to be inside the Jewish tradition. So I feel it's the same about me.
Amazing.
Thank you. Beautiful answer.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that very personal answer. And I think this is a good opportunity for me to say thank you very much for this entire course. This was dipping our toes only into a drop of water. I think everybody here can appreciate that this is an enormous topic, and there is so much more that we have yet to explore. And in typical Kabbalistic way, you revealed something and you hid something at the same time. So I guess this is the nature of what precisely this is all about, hiding and revealing. Dr. Roy, this was amazing. This was really fabulous. This was different. This was deep. This was significant. It was incredible. It was really incredible. And I speak on behalf of myself, but I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the students who have been drinking from your words. Thank you so much. This was very, very powerful, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much. And you're very welcome. If you're here in Jerusalem, come to visit. Most of the days I'm here in my office, if I'm not going to teach, you're very welcome to say hi. So it was a
And
pleasure.
I have to respond with the equal opportunity. When you are next in North America, you let me know. Montreal is waiting for you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Kol Tov.
Bye. Thank you, Rabbi Mark Fishman. Thank you.
Bye.